Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Shabbat Shalom. Welcome to the Vineyard, everybody here, and everybody's tuning in, watching on Facebook Live, and that will see this on YouTube. This message has been stirring in me for several weeks. I'm very, very excited to share what the Lord has shown me today. And Father, help us to hear from your Holy Spirit today. So this is Amalek. A-M. I was going to write it Lamed. Lamelech. L-K. And what happened here is it's got lines through it, 3 lines through it. So Amalek's name has been written with 3 lines through it. Okay? The title of the message today is A Book of Remembrance, Pastor Tom. That's why I was jumped in on the tag team with you earlier. So today we're going to talk about Purim. Say Purim. Okay, and that's the name of this holiday. And if you just listen, you'll hear it pronounced about 57 different ways in East Tennessee with Hebrew roots and Messianics. Purim. Just try to say it. It doesn't matter how you say it, okay? But so this is a season looking forward to Purim next week. This is a season of hidden miracles. Everybody say hidden miracles. Hidden miracles. Okay, this is going to be one of our themes today, hidden miracles. So this is Esther. Esther, actually, you just look that word up, Esther. It means star. Phonetically, it's connected to the word star. That was a joke. And in Hebrew, Estar. Esther. But this Esther is also Astarte, Ashtoreth, and Ishtar. These are all names of this one fertility sex goddess. And all of the idols of Ishtar, Esther, Ashtaroth are all naked because she's a fertility goddess. It's interesting that most people don't know Esther's real name, which is Hadassah. Hadassah is her real name, that her family name, and then she was given the name Esther later. So this month is the month of Adar. This is Adar in Hebrew. Adar is connected to a word, adir. Say adir. Now also, what word is this? Adar. Say Adar. That's this month, Adar. This is the word door. Say door. Not door, but door. Okay? This word door means family line or generations. So the month Adar is connected to the word adir, is also connected to a root word, door, which is generations. So this month is a month of strong family ties. It's a month where God is really intending to bind the family together. Everybody say that with me? Bind the family together. Praise the Lord. I just got some cool stuff coming to me here. Tom Campbell and Hearn family. Praise the Lord, binding the family. That's what God wants to do. Amen? Isn't that cool? Listen. If you connect yourself to Him, He'll connect Himself to you, and you will be synced up with the stuff that's going on in the months and in the Torah portions. I said that. Now, this is something, all this stuff is new to me that I didn't know, okay? So, we're going to learn about Purim, and one of the things about Purim is this. It's actually a story, it's a family story, and the characters of the family are hidden in plain sight. And unless you research and study the generations of all the players, and also you need to look at the teachings of the oral Torah of our Jewish brothers, you wouldn't put all this picture together. Purim is a story of a family that's not strong. Purim is a story of a divided family that has a lot of issues. And a divided family is not a strong family. Adar is a month of laughter and joy. Amen? You should be, if you take seriously what our Jewish brothers teach us about the months, this is a season where you're supposed to try, at least try, to increase joy and laughter. You should also remember that it's a season of God being masked and hidden, but ultimately the masks and the hiding come off to reveal the true nature of things. Be yourself in this month. Be yourself in this month. Well, we will dress up like Bible characters on Wednesday, but God is really saying, take your mask off after the season of Purim and be prepared to just be yourself. God is calling you to be yourself in this season. It's a time prophetically to deal with doubt and fear. God has spoken to some of you and given you specific instructions, and in this season you've begun to doubt that He spoke to you because of the situation that you're in. God is wanting me to tell you that the enemy will attack if you allow doubt. The enemy will attack if you allow doubt. Don't doubt what God is doing in your life and even the things that He has spoken to you. He's given you instructions. Don't miss the moment of acting on the instructions that the Lord has given you. Follow the Lord. Follow the Lord. So this is a season of elimination of doubt. Doubt brings fear. Have no fear, family. The elimination of doubt brings joy, which is the medicine for fear. Have joy and faith and trust the Lord. Purim is a story of hidden miracles behind the scenes. Say hidden miracles. To understand the story of Purim, we must look at the beginning of the story, which actually begins with Abraham and Jacob. Okay, now check this out. Our Jewish brothers have a saying. Here's what they say. In order to experience the Nisim, say Nisim, of Nisan, which Nisim of Nisan, say that? Nisim means miracles, plural, say miracles. Of Nisan, which is next month. So in order to experience the open miracles of God that are going to come next month, you must experience the Nes Natsar, the hidden miracle of the 12th month. Okay? Nes is miracle. Nisim is miracles. So what is Purim? What is this thing we talk about, Purim? The children of Israel were united under King Solomon, and then the kingdom got divided. The northern kingdom was taken captive, scattered into all the world, and lost their identity. The southern kingdom was taken captive, and then we have the whole story that was laid out with Nebuchadnezzar and the statue that Daniel saw. Babylonians, Medo-Persian, Grecian, and Roman Empire, and then you have the feet that are mixed, and you have the toes, okay, which is a kingdom to come. Now, during the time when the Babylonians took Israel captive, a new king arose, which was a Medo-Persian king, and it's during the season of the Medes and the Persian Empire that the story of Esther takes place. So the children of Israel are in exile. There's a small remnant that were released to go back and begin building the temple, and some stayed and did not go. Everybody understand the story? Quick history. Now, there's a king, Ahasuerus. Ahasuerus, I mean, there's a 70 ways to pronounce that, depending, but it's Ahasuerus. And he calls his wife to do a little, a little jingle, jiggle, dance, whatever. And she doesn't do it, and he's having a big party, and they were like, listen, it's time to get a new woman. And he's like, yes. So then the king goes on a hunt for a new wife. And it just so happens there's a little Jewish girl there from the southern kingdom, from the tribe of Benjamin. She's been hanging out in the land with her uncle Mordecai. They're from the tribe of Ben-Yamin. Say that? That's Benjamin in Hebrew, Benjamin. So this is very important. What tribe is Hadassah and Mordecai from? Benjamin. Then there's a bad guy. His name is Haman. He's from the clan or family line of Agag. Say Agag. So remember, two families. Benjamin, say Benjamin. And Agag. Haman wants to kill the Jews. He plots a plot, casts the lots. How do you say lot in Hebrew? Is pur. How do you say lots, plural? Is purim. Pur is one lot. Purim is lots. Deciding to execute them, he builds gallows. He's going to kill them. He ends up dying on the very gallows that he built, right? You know the story. I hope you read the book of Esther. Now, Agag and Benjamin. Say that one more time. So what's the origin of this holiday? So, okay, there's a story in the Bible about the children of Israel and this amazing victory, but what's the actual, why do we celebrate that? There's all kinds of miracles. We don't have a holiday for the children of Israel crossing the Red Sea. We don't say on this day we have a party and we gather and we celebrate that, right? We don't have a party on the day that Joshua marched around Jericho, blew the shofars, and the walls came tumbling down. We could have 700 holidays based on all of the miracles that the children of Israel saw God's hand moving in their behalf all through the Tanakh, but none of them were made into holidays except Hanukkah and Purim. So what's so special about them? Mordecai recorded these events in the book of Esther, chapter 9. What events? What I just told you. And he sent letters to all the Jewish people throughout the provinces of King Ahasuerus, both near and far, in order to institute for them a what? On the 14th and 15th day of the what month? 12th. 12th month called Adar. Say 12th. Now, what's interesting is 1 month later, on the 14th and 15th, is a holiday called what? Passover. And if you go and reread through the book of Esther, you'll see that there are connections between the 14th and 15th of the 12th and the 14th and 15th of the 1st. And it was actually a satanic plot to destroy the children of Israel on the very season and days that they were going to celebrate Passover. And you're going to see, why is this even specific date such a date that was chosen? Every year, each and every year, like the days when the Jews had rest from their enemies, and like the month when things turned around for them, changing sorrow to joy and mourning into a favorable day, changing sorrow from joy and mourning into a favorable day. This is why we say that it's a month of joy and laughter. This month is the month right before the spring feasts. This month is the month right before the spring feast. So what we do in this month prepares us for the spring feast. And our Jewish brothers teach us, in order to get ready for the spring feast, we have to increase joy and laughter. It's the exact opposite of what we do in the month of Elul, which is the 6th month, which prepares us for the 7th month, which is the fall feast, which is we mourn, cry, beat our chests, and repent for sin. They're juxtaposed, they're opposites. And it says, so that we could have a season of feasting and rejoicing and sending food portions to one another and gifts to the poor, the bus ministry. So the Jewish people accepted what had begun as a tradition as Mordecai had written to them. Haman, the son of Hammedatha, the Agagite. Say Agagite. The enemy of all the Jews. He had plotted against the Jews to destroy them and had cast pur, that's lots, purim is plural, to crush and destroy them. Now listen to this. But when Esther came before the king, but there's a hidden nugget in there, because there's an invisible king that's never mentioned in this story except when he's called the king. So who did she really come before when she was praying and fasting? So he's actually hidden in this term called the king. He ordered by a letter that the wicked plot which Haman had devised against the Jews should come upon his own head, and that he and his son should be hanged on the gallows. Therefore they call these days Purim, based on the name Pur. Furthermore, based on all this information in this letter, along with what they had seen in regard and what had happened to them, the Jews instituted and accepted a tradition for themselves. This is not bad. There's people that say Purim and Hanukkah are bad. They're not bad. They're not pagan. They're not wicked. Okay? It's just like 4th of July and Thanksgiving. They're not Moedim. They're holidays. And when you understand the prophetic significance, and you see at the end of the story to teaching today how this is connected even all the way to the book of the Revelation, and you're gonna understand a little more of why it's important. So they instituted a tradition for who? Themselves. That means at that time in the past, their descendants who were going to come in the future, that means today, and who else? All joining with them. That's the nations. This holiday is for biological sons and daughters and all of us who are joined in and grafted into the house of Israel, becoming members of the commonwealth according to Ephesians chapter 2. That they would not fail in observing the celebration. So listen, if Yeshua is your God and the God of Israel is your God, then you are called right here. You're one of these that join with them. So that we would not fail in observing this celebration for 2 days as prescribed and specified each and every year. These days should be remembered and celebrated throughout every generation, every family, province, city, so that the days of Purim would not lose their significance among the Jews, and the commemoration of these days would not cease among their descendants. See, the reality is, the Jewish people have a saying, I learned this from Rabbi Joe. They tried to kill us, we won, let's eat. Everything is like that. So Hanukkah, they tried to kill us. We won. Let's eat. Purim, they tried to kill us. We won. As always, it's the devil is trying to take the Jewish people out. So today is a very special. There are special Sabbaths, seventh-day Sabbaths throughout the year. This Sabbath is a special one. It's called Shabbat Zachar. Say that. This is the Sabbath right before Purim, and it's the Sabbath of remembrance. Say that with me, the Sabbath of remembrance. So our Jewish brothers give us another text to read, which is found in Deuteronomy. It's the Sabbath Zachar, Shabbat Zachar. Let's read this. Deuteronomy 25. Remember what Amalek did to you by the road when you were what? So we're going to see this connection with Passover and Purim. How he met you by the way and attacked you at your rear, all that were stragglers behind you. When you were exhausted and weary, he did not fear God. Therefore it shall be, when the Lord your God has given you rest from all your surrounding enemies in the land which the Lord your God is giving you for an inheritance to possess, that you must what? The remembrance of Amalek from under heaven. You must not forget to blot his name out. That's why we remember the holiday Purim, and that's why we celebrate Shabbat Zachar when we read this specific text. So the question then becomes, what does Amalek in Deuteronomy have to do with Purim years later? And how is that connected to a family feud? One thing as an interlude. It says that Amalek met you by the way and attacked all of those who were close together to the community of Israel. No. Who did Amalek attack? That has got to speak volumes to us. If you're a straggler, and you let that mean what it means to you, if you're a straggler, you will be vulnerable and you will be attacked. The closer you press into God and your local community, the more protection you have. Rabbi Joe used to say this all the time. If you consider yourself a part of this congregation but only come every once in a while, you're less likely to get prayed for. Why? People see your face, and then when they're on their knees praying, they will just be prompted to remember you more. Not only that, there's a spiritual teaching of the community being tight-knit and less vulnerable to attacks. So not only the stragglers who are on the outside, they just get waylaid and attacked. If you're exhausted and weary, you're more vulnerable than those who are alert, clean, honest, courageous, loyal, obedient, and spiritual. So Amalek comes up to people who are not connected, exhausted, and weary. And I want you to remember this, halt. I learned this when I was in rehab. Be careful anytime you're going to be vulnerable if you get hungry, angry, lonely, straggler, or tired. We are told that we, in present tense, are to blot out the remembrance of Amalek. So the scribes literally take the quill when they're writing the Torah, and they dip it, and then they do this. They write Amalek. And then they write it like that. They literally strike out Amalek's name as a way to, because the Jewish people are very much into literally fulfilling the commands. Shema Yisrael, Yahweh Eloheinu, Yahweh Echad, Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto Le'olam Vayed, and have these words which I command you to this day be upon your heart, and you shall teach them diligently to your children, and you shall speak of them when you sit in your house, and when you walk along the way. You shall bind them for a sign upon your hands, and let them be frontlets between your eyes. Literally, the Jewish people do that. Amalek, okay, this is again. Amalek is the same numeric value as the word for doubt. So when you deal with doubt, Amalek is going to be right behind you, attacking you. So the holiday of Purim is in the month of Adar, and these are seasons when Yahweh is wanting to teach us about the battle between uncertainty and doubt and between having faith, trust, and certainty in what God is doing. So He's wanting to encourage you because He's working behind the scenes, family. So again, this month is about laughter and seeing God in hidden miracles. Say hidden miracles. Say God still works behind the scenes. See, God is actually masked in every single person and in everything that's going on. Even when you find yourself making decisions and getting yourself into trouble, God didn't do that, but He works through that so that all things work together for the good of those who love God and are called according to His purpose. Hallelujah. This doesn't say all things are good. And it doesn't say God does all things. God did not make the brothers throw Joseph in a pit. He never tempts to sin, but He takes people's sin because He's sovereign and He's the master chess player of the universe, and He takes whatever is happening and He uses it for your good. So remember Amalek, what he did to you when you were coming out of Egypt, how he met you and attacked you. So how is this attack by Amalek when Israel was coming out of Egypt connected to Purim? This is how. Everybody listen. Esther 3. After these things, King Ahasuerus promoted Haman. And Haman is an Agagite. So the Agagite is a descendant of Agag. Say Agag. So who is Agag? Because in order to figure out what the children of Israel coming out of Egypt and Amalek, all of that have to do with Purim, we need to discover who is Agag. Because Agag was the ancestor, the great-great-great-great-great-grandfather of Haman. So in 1 Samuel chapter 15 we read this. Samuel said to Saul, "The Lord sent me to anoint you to be king over His people, over Israel. Now therefore listen to the voice of the words of the Lord. Thus says the Lord of hosts, I remember," this is so important, what Amalek did to Israel. How he laid in wait for him in the way, and when he came up out of Egypt. So now go and strike Amalek and utterly destroy all that they have, and do not have compassion on them. But what does he say? Put to death men, women, children, infants, ox, sheep, camels, donkeys. Wipe them off the planet. That's what God says about Amalek. Why? Why is he so harsh right here to destroy men, women, and children? He doesn't do that in other places. So Saul organized the troops and counted them at Telam, and he had 200,000 foot soldiers, 10,000 men from Judah. Saul went to the city of Amalek and set an ambush in the valley. Then Saul said to the Kenites, "Get away from the Amalekites so that I won't destroy you with them." The Kenites, okay? He could have taken them out, but God even spared them. Because you were kind to the Israelites when they came out of Egypt. All this stuff should prompt you to go reread the wilderness journeys in the book of Numbers and find out who did what and who was kind and who wasn't kind. And that actually means a whole lot to God when you treat people with kindness. God doesn't remember our sins, but He definitely remembers the sins of the unbelievers. That's why it says you don't want to find yourself in the hands of an angry God. So Saul attacked the Amalekites at Havilah to Shur, east of Egypt. Havilah to Shur, the east of Egypt. And he captured King who? Now listen, what does Purim have to do with this? Haman was an Agagite, a descendant of Agag. Everybody following me? You're on the same page with me. That's why we're right now dealing with who is Agag. Because we want to find out how is Haman connected to Agag, and how is that connected to the children of Israel coming up out of Egypt, and how is it all connected to Purim? So he captured Agag, the Amalekite, alive. Agag is the king of Amalek. So it's a people and a place. Was he supposed to capture him alive? No. Okay. He destroyed everything else, but he spared Agag and the best cows and sheep and animals and lambs and all the good. Look, the Lord's cool with it, guys. But wait a minute, Samuel said, but listen, I'm in charge now. Any of the good sheep we're going to take. Anything gold, yes, take the gold. Cattle, yeah, you can have all the good stuff. But Samuel, but listen, I'm the king, do what I say. Yes, sir. Now, the next thing we have is Samuel gets a prophetic word, and here's what he has. Meh. Meh. Lord. In verse 32, well, this is what happens. Samuel gets a prophetic word, and he goes to talk to the king. In verse 32, I'll tell you what happens. He hears bleating sheep and mooing cows. And he's like, Lord, what is this? And he said, that worthless man, Saul, that I raised up as king, has totally disobeyed me. Go deal with him. So the prophet comes. And let me just tell you this. If you walk in sin and disobedience, God says to you, judge yourself. But if you don't judge yourself, God will send a prophet to speak directly to you and rebuke you. It's best to deal with your own self between you and the Lord. So Samuel is talking to Saul, and Saul's like, I did everything you wanted me to. No, you didn't. And then we have this phrase, obedience is better than sacrifice. And the Lord's like, I regret that I did this, put this guy as the king. So listen, Samuel, the old man Samuel, the old man, he says, bring the king here. Give me a sword. Can you imagine the prophet now has to do the job of the king? You have kings, priests, prophets, judges. You've got all these people. But family, let me tell you what, even in the congregational setting, you have a specific part and member of the body and a job and a responsibility that you have to do here. If you drop the ball, prophets have to kill people that kings are supposed to kill. If we all work as a body, it's easier on us. Do your job, do it well. Hold the line that God has given to you, and if you don't have a job, come and see us and we'll give you some responsibility. Listen to this. Samuel cut Agag into pieces in the presence of the Lord. Listen, you remember a man named Pinchas? Yes. Phinehas. Phineas is a man in the days of Moses. And the children of Israel had been messing with these bad women. And God says to the leaders, He's like, listen, you need to repent. So all of the men are repenting. And this man walks right in front of Moses and all the leaders. They're repenting for sin, and he's got a prostitute. Goes into the tent, starts snuggling. Pinchas, filled with zeal, grabs a sword and stabs them both. Kills them both. Pins them together. Pinchas' name means scatter the snake with a bronze sword. It also means two people in a tent having intercourse stabbed with a sword. I've got a whole teaching on it. It's absolutely amazing how your name speaks to your destiny. But Saul didn't do that. He did not remember. Say remember. Say remember. So if Saul would have just remembered, did you know what the king was supposed to do? The king was literally supposed to write a Torah scroll, a little Torah scroll, and have it with him at all times. Every king of Israel had to write a Torah scroll to remember things. Now, look, Samuel killed Agag, right? So that means all the people are dead. If all the Amalekites are dead now that Samuel killed the very last one, how do we have an Amalekite way up in the book of the days of the book of Esther? You ever think about that? How is there an Amalekite when Samuel killed the very last one? This is where we need the oral Torah. When King Saul came to King Agag's tent, he was having relations with his wife. King Saul let him finish, then captured him. And while they were struggling, King Agag's wife escaped, and the oral tradition tells us that she was pregnant with the line of this wicked king Agag, which produces, way down the line, Haman. This is why our Jewish brothers have stories that go all the way back to the days of Saul and Solomon that aren't recorded in the written text that give us understanding of how things happen. So Saul goes up, goes to the tent. He's like, oh, okay. He should have, with the zeal of Pinchas. But there was a thing that in the ancient cultures that the kings would like to do. They would actually like to take other kings as trophies. It meant, I conquered this place, now you're my slave. It was pride. That's why he says pride comes before the fall in the scriptures. He says idolatry is like witchcraft. Do what you want to do is the whole of the law. That's Aleister Crowley stuff. Yeshua says, not my will, your will be done. So isn't that interesting that King Saul goes to the tent, they're snuggling. He's like, I'm going to give him one last little whatever. When he's going to fight, then he barges in. The wife's like, I'm out of here. She runs away, and she had just gotten pregnant. So let's look at the family line of Amalek. Amalek is the son of Eliphaz. Say Eliphaz. Eliphaz is actually the son of Esau. Say Esau. Esau is the firstborn son of Isaac. Isaac is the son of Father Abraham. That's how this family is all connected. Isn't that interesting? Chronicles are very important books. They can be boring, but if you go digging through Chronicles, you find really, really cool stuff. You also can find in the books of Chronicles that Caleb and Joshua, the two men that were chosen as spies, it says that Caleb is from the tribe of Judah. It says that in Numbers. But Caleb is not from the tribe of Judah. Caleb is a sojourner. Caleb sojourned. When you study his genealogy, Caleb was from Judah. Joshua was from Ephraim. You have Ephraim and Judah. But the reality is, if you study the genealogy of Caleb, he wasn't from the tribe of Judah. He comes from a whole different line of people that were not from Israel's descendants. But what he did is he sojourned with Judah, and he produced offspring in Judah. And because he knew that the children of Israel were holy people, it says in Ezekiel 47 that if a sojourner or someone that's from a different nationality dwells with the children of Israel and hangs out with them, they become one with the people. And it says whatever tribe that you hang out with, that's where you get your inheritance. So the reason that Caleb, this is just a little side nugget for you guys, this is the reason Caleb is said from the tribe of Judah, because Caleb was a foreigner that hung with Judah and got his inheritance with Judah. Does that make sense? Isn't that good to know? So listen to this. This is so interesting, family. So the children of Israel are actually relatives of Amalek. They're cousins. Now listen to how this whole thing takes a twist. And now you're going to see why God was so upset when they came out of Egypt and they fought them instead of chilling out with them and helping them. Abraham had a vision in Genesis 15. God said to Abram, you can know like it might happen. No. You can know for sure that your descendants will live in a land that's not their own. What's this talking about? Ultimately, the Egyptian slavery time. They will be slaves and they will be oppressed for 400 years. Now check this out. This promise was for the firstborn son of Abraham. Abraham, Isaac, the firstborn son. Jacob. Was Jacob the firstborn son? Esau was the firstborn son. So listen. When Esau gets so frustrated with his birthright that he's like, I don't even care, I'm going to sell it. He sells it to who? Jacob. Along with the birthright is this inheritance of Abraham's vision, which means now, instead of Esau going to Egypt, Jacob and his descendants go to Egypt. Did you get it? If he would not have sold the birthright, I don't know how God would have worked it out, but God chose Jacob. I'm just telling you the legal aspect. So when he takes the birthright, gives it up, then later Abraham actually prays. Jacob and Isaac prays and blesses him anyways. You see that. Okay, because he sneaks it. Then he gets in the very next chapter, he actually, Isaac blesses him and gives it to him. But that inheritance birthright came with the vision and promise of Abraham's seed going to Egypt. So it would have been the generations or family line of Esau that goes down. Now listen, this is going to make sense as to why God was so frustrated, because their cousins should have been in Egypt. But they went to Egypt. Now they're coming out of Egypt, and their cousins want to fight them instead of help them. All the congregation of the children of Israel journeyed from the wilderness of Sin, from a place from the place to place according to the commandment of the Lord, and they pitched in Rephidim, and there was no water for the people to drink. Therefore the people contended with Moses, and they said, "Give us water, we're dying." Like seriously, they just had open miracle after miracle after miracle, toppling the whole Egyptian pantheon of gods. Even Pharaoh himself was drowned in the sea. Now all of a sudden they forget God. It's amazing. This is just Exodus 17. They haven't even been to the Mount Sinai yet. They come out in 13 and 14, and now just a little bit later they're complaining. And then they say, "Why is it that you've brought us up out of Egypt to kill us and our children and our livestock, and we're going to die?" What are they doing? Say doubting. They saw open miracles. Now God's not with them. He's hiding behind the scenes. But He's still working stuff out, family. And all of a sudden, they're doubting. What does doubt bring forth? Amalek. Fear and Amalek, because they're the same number value. And they said this, "Is the Lord with us or not?" Seriously? You have to ask that? You seriously just saw the ocean open up. The Red Sea, is it little, Ken? It's pretty big. Now they're like, "Is God with us?" They're doubting. Amalek and doubt, the same thing. So when they come up out of the land of Egypt, they were not seeing open miracles, and they begin to doubt. So we learn this. Doubt is not only a thought process, it brings with it a spiritual attack of the Amalekites. That makes sense. How is one to respond to Amalek? How is one to deal with apathy, cynicism, and senseless doubt? The formula that the Torah gives us is in one word called zachar, remember. And that's exactly what Tom said. When you're in a place of doubt, when you don't see open miracles, you have to remember what God did from you in the past. That's why we need to have journals. And not only journals, great kings always had books of remembrance. That's why the great king has a book of remembrance of deeds. Did you know he has a deeds? It says it in the Bible. It says you can't, in that day of judgment, stand before the angel, the one that records your deeds, the book of remembrance, and say, "I didn't really do that," because the angel wrote it down in the book of remembrance. Say book of remembrance. Malachi says there's a book of remembrance that's open before the Lord for all of those who love His name and call upon Him. There's a book of remembrance. Say a book of remembrance. You need your own personal book of remembrance. Every great king had a book of remembrance, and the great king has one also. After the battle with Amalek in Exodus 17, we have this next story about Moses building an altar to Yahweh. We haven't even talked about Purim yet. But we have the whole thing. Do you see how it's all weaved together? Moses built an altar. So what happens? They complain. Amalek comes. They fight. Now this is what happens. Moses built an altar and called the name of it Yahweh Nisi, Jehovah Nisi. The Lord is my banner. For he said, the Lord has sworn that the Lord will have war with who? What does Yahweh's name, Yahweh Nisi, have to do with Amalek and the 12th month and the first month? How are all these things connected? Why does he say, I'm going to call God Yahweh Nisi, because we have to fight a war with Amalek? The months proceed from the 12th Adar to the 1st Nisan. The things that we do in the month of Adar prepare us for the month of Nisan. This is Yahweh Nisi. This is Nes. This is miracle. This is Nisim. This is plural, miracles. This is Nasim. Nasim is to flee or escape. All of these words are connected. Why? Because they have the noon Samic. And this is the month Nisan. So when he says Yahweh Nisi, We have to remember that we fight Amalek. There's a hidden message there because Amalek is destroyed in the 12th month and we have Passover in the 1st month. And he's saying you must deal with Amalek before you can move on to Passover. Okay? And there's a season of doubt that comes during the 12th month, but God gives you victory to prepare you for the 1st month. This in Hebrew is basically, and the Lord swore, and that's actually not what this says, but I'm not going to do a teaching on it. It actually talks about, God says that his hand is the one that fights, but here's what I want to focus on. This says, Yah Milchama. When we learned a couple of Sabbaths ago about the word Milchama. Milchama means war, and embedded in the word war was lechem, which is bread. But it says that Yah Milchama, the Lord, that Amalek will fight with the Lord, La Yahweh, but Amalek, and then this right here. The Lord will fight with Amalek from generation to generation. This right here is generation to generation, and here's what it says. Midor, door. Say that. So, help me to explain this, Lord. Doubt comes, Amalek fights. God's name in the season of fighting Amalek is Yahweh Nisi. And then he says, when God is our banner, we fight Amalek from door, midor, door, in every generation. And now we're going to see a play on words here because Yahweh Nisi connects us to the 1st month, and generation to generation connects us to this 12th month, midor, door. I'm going to put my pen. Did I set it down? Thank you. This is midor, door. This is the word Adar. This is this month. Okay? So there's a connection between fighting Amalek, generation after generation, family feuds, and what happens in this month preparing us for the next month. So years later, so this is their cousins. And they know that's their cousins. Like to them, they know who their family line are. They come up and Amalek wants to fight them. God gets so mad that years later, during the reign of King Saul, he says, I remember what Amalek did. Go destroy him. Why was it a big deal? Because actually, it was their family that should have went into Egypt, and he didn't like his birthright, and he tricked his brother. His brother tricked him. He sold it anyway, but he was despising it, and they should have helped him when they didn't. So remember that King Saul is from the tribe of what? Benjamin. And he lets King Agag's wife flee, and that's how we get Haman being born. Now I want to show you something interesting. Does everybody see the backstory so far? They're actually relatives. They're coming up out of Egypt and they fight them. Saul is told to wipe them out, but he lets just one woman flee. She continues the line. We get all the way up into now the children of Israel are in Persia, and this man Haman wants to kill everybody. Now, what did I say to remember? There was a book of remembrance. Listen to this. During the night, the king could not sleep. So he ordered that the what? The book of deeds, or the book of remembrance, be brought. And the books were read before the king. This is amazing. The rabbis teach that there was something stirring in his heart because there was an assassination attempt on his life earlier in the story. And who saved him? Mordecai. So the rabbis teach that they believe the reason he couldn't sleep that night is because there was another plot on his life. He's just restless. And he's like, I can't sleep. Give me the book of remembrance. What? Did we ever do anything for Mordecai who saved my life? They open the books. They're like, we didn't do anything for Mordecai. He's like, we got to do something. Who's out in the courtyard? Haman's down there. Go get Haman right now. Bring him up here. Haman, the king wants to see you. I know he does. He loves me. I'm his favorite. Haman, what should we do for the man the king wants to honor? He's talking about me. Well, let me just think what I want. I want the king's robe. The person that you want to honor should have the king's robe. You should put him on a horse and then have someone parade him through town and say, this is what's done to the man the king wants to honor. Great idea, Haman. Go get Mordecai the Jew and thus do to him. What an amazing twist, because he hates Mordecai the Jew and he wants to kill Mordecai the Jew. Isn't that something? And it's just an interesting twist on the story. Let me tell you this. If you don't accomplish what God has for you in this generation, your children will work on it. And actually, we're all working on rectification of spiritual bad spiritual traits that come from our generations. We really are. And we're still also, whatever God calls specific families to do specific jobs. And what our parents didn't finish, we have the opportunity to work on. And what we don't finish, our generations have the opportunity to work on. Now listen, King Saul was from the family tribe of Benjamin. The Bible tells us in the book of Esther that Hadassah and Mordecai are from the tribe of Benjamin. And guess what? They were called to finish the job that Saul didn't do. Does it make sense? Saul would have killed them, they wouldn't have had this problem. But since Saul didn't, God raises them up later down the line, and now they have to kill Agag. And so you know the story. Esther has the banquets, and then, Haman is hung on the gallows, right? God's name is never mentioned or even hinted at in this story, except in the place where it says, the king. And the rabbis teach that every place that it talks about Esther or Mordecai coming before the king, that's a hint at the great king. And his name is, Yahweh's name is actually in the book of Esther in equidistant letter skipping. It's mapped out all through there. Okay? It's actually all through the book of Esther. So the sages of Israel tell us, they give us a hint that the king really, Hamelech, that was she came before, was the great king. And how is this holiday fulfilled in the future? How is this holiday fulfilled in the future? Revelation 19:11 says this. Now wait, first, there's a whole bunch of bad people that want to kill the Jewish people. And God says, you guys can actually fight and kill all the people that want to kill you. He gives them permission to. The king, Ahasuerus. And Haman gets killed. Now the future fulfillment of this is right here. I saw heaven open, and there was a white horse, and he who sat on it is faithful and true, and in righteousness he judges and wages war. His eyes are like a flame of fire, and on his head are many crowns. He has a name written that no one knows but himself, and he's clothed in a robe dipped in blood. His name is called the Word of God. And the armies in heaven, clothed in fine linen, white and clean, followed him on white horses, and out of his mouth proceeds a sharp sword, that he may strike the nations and rule them with an iron scepter. And he's the one that treads the winepress of the fury and the wrath of God. The holiday Purim, say Purim, is connected to a holiday called Yom HaKippurim. Say that, Yom HaKippurim. What is Yom HaKippurim? That's the Day of Atonement. The rabbis say that Yom HaKippurim is Kippurim. It's like Purim. Why? Because in Purim, all the bad guys are killed. And in the future fulfillment of Yom HaKippurim, God judges the earth. He separates the sheep and the goats, and he kills all the bad guys. So Purim is like Yom Kippurim, and that's connecting us to Revelation chapter 19, where all the bad guys get killed. Amen? How do we apply this to our lives? Have faith and continue to fight doubt. Make your body a spiritual dwelling place for Yahweh. And you must fight Amalek from generation to generation. Amen?